Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Cody.
I'm Spencer.
I'm Joshua.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and today we are going to do a review of RuneScape Kingdoms, the Shadow of Elvarg. You'll notice that Bob and Dan look very different today. That's because we're crossing over with the Miniatures Rundown, guys. We've got Joshua and Cody. This is Joshua's game?
This is my game, yes.
Yeah, so he taught it. We played the first scenario.
The first campaign.
Mission.
Vampire Slayer.
It's technically like a legacy style game, and because what we're doing is we're walking around to the different locations and we're gaining items, we're leveling up, maybe we're spending, you're getting skill checks from like event cards, all kinds of good stuff, right?
Yeah, it's very, I hesitate to use the word Gloomhaven because it's really not like Gloomhaven much at all.
It's very Steamforged-y, as
Yes.
in there's the grinding aspect. Like they really like to create video game IPs close to the video game, right? So it feels like that.
So this is a Steamforged game. Steamforged Games game.
Yeah.
Who also have made, they made the Dark Souls board game.
Yes.
They made the Horizon Zero Dawn board game.
Yes.
And they also made,
I know they did it.
they've made a couple, they've made a few others.
Did they do Bard Song too? I don't know.
They did do Bard Song, I believe. Basically,
Who did Frostpunk? I don't remember.
No.
That was
they
not
didn't do
them?
Frostpunk, no.
They did not.
Anyway,
you're out. You're fired.
I'm out.
Get out of here.
They do lots of board games. I
Aren't
picked this up.
ones doing Deep Rock Galactic, or is that?
I don't know anything about Deep Rock Galactic. I have not actually played Deep
I'll have
Rock
to look that one back up.
Galactic.
I don't know if the
Unlike
Kickstarter's
you,
done
I
yet.
do not live the lifestyle.
Space
Yeah.
dwarves
Of the dwarf.
mining. Oh,
I got this via the Kickstarter. The version I got came with some very nice accoutrement. So
Yes.
the metallic coins, the 3D resource markers as opposed to 2D cardboard. It also came with some nice neoprene mats instead of just the cardboard, although we ended up using the cardboard because I didn't feel like getting the mat out.
oh yeah, fair.
But just be warned, if you're just buying the base retail version, that those things will not come with it.
I mean, it's still going to come with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of tokens, a lot of stuff. All the miniatures come with it. None of these miniatures are bonus or anything with there. It comes with, let me see, 14 miniatures?
Well, there's 10 base miniatures because there's 5 for the players and then
4
5
bosses.
upgrades.
Yep. So 5 basically what your characters start out as, and then 5 when you level up, you get to a better version. There's also 4 boss miniatures. So a total of 14 miniatures in the base box. There are 4 expansions, I believe. We did not play any of those today because each one adds a new campaign, and none of them really add base game content. They just add campaign content. So we didn't add those today. We just played the basic game. We played the first scenario, which is Vampire Slayer. I know you guys don't have any history with it, but Cody, do you really want to quickly explain what RuneScape is and our history with it?
Yes, RuneScape, like many other gamers, was my first MMO.
It's not anymore, but the big key back in the day, in the 2006, was that it was a browser-based MMO.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was why, because you didn't have to download anything.
Right.
Internet still wasn't super prevalent in a lot of homes, or at least decent internet. So like jumping into a video game and seeing another person walking around and being like, that's a human. That's a person.
So I guess a browser-based MMO, fantasy MMO, very generic fantasy.
Right.
It's about making numbers go up.
Yeah, it's
about clicking things and making numbers go up. That's mostly what the game is. There's ostensibly other things.
How many AOL discs did you burn to get the hours on the internet?
So this was post AOL for me, I believe.
Oh yeah, I guess that was more like 90s.
RuneScape started in 2003.
Yeah, way to make me feel old.
I started playing in 2006 because I was in 7th grade.
Also still feel
God,
old.
way to make me feel old.
I want to say I started in 2004. It was right after the first upgrade, because they started with like really, really bad graphics, and then they upgraded to the only kind of bad graphics that are still popular to this day if you play OSRS, which is old school RuneScape. I started right around when that started, but yeah, at the end of the day, the game, it's notorious for its grinding, so it's a game about leveling up your skills, which it translates pretty well in the board game here.
Although less well if you play it correctly, which we did not at first.
We did not.
Which we'll get to, I suppose.
Yeah.
The base game campaign comes the base game comes with 4 campaigns. It is a legacy game, so you are supposed to start with the first one, Vampire Slayer, and then it goes to Demon Slayer, which, if you're familiar with the game, is based on the Delrith demon. Then it goes to Fire Slayer, which is not a campaign in the main game, but that's where the fire folks are. The Tsar, I can never pronounce that. Tzhaar.
Yeah.
And then it ends with Dragon Slayer, which was for a long time, the ultimate quest of RuneScape. It was about actually fighting Elvarg the Dragon.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is all taken from the game. You are supposed to do this in order. The skills, for example, you start at level 1 and can go up to 99.
I think that's overkill, maybe?
Well, I don't know, because if the Dragon Slayer is supposed to be super leveled up, maybe you're looking at needing skills in the 70s, the 80s.
That's wild.
You gotta grind by going back and doing the old one, just like in the real game.
Just like in the real game.
Yeah, they would really need to ramp up the EXP gain for that, because
the EXP
Bob's max skill here, Bob was here playing with us earlier, was 6.
Yes, I have.
We played for a couple of hours.
Yeah,
so...
and it did say that,
I had 8.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thieving. Yeah, as the knight.
Yes. Yeah, so it is worth noting there's no kind of like RuneScape itself. There's no character classes. Your miniature has no bearing on what you play. It's just it's there for looks.
Yeah, I guess for me, like, let's just get into some comments. Like on our thoughts of the actual game, like so we'll go around. We'll just kind of take turns,
Round robin it.
Yeah. So I'll just go first since I was about to start into a thing because that makes sense. So for me, I don't have a problem with everybody just being generic, like we all start. But if you're gonna call me the knight, like at least give me like 2 skills automatically that I am knight-ish in. It can be just melee and defense, you know, or whatever, because. And it's fine, but because the way everybody else was going, and I just kept ending up with thieving skills because the places I were going were giving me thieving skill checks. Because that's the thing, you draw an event card, you're gonna have to do a skill check based on where you're at, which I really like, and I think that's really fun. And then the nice thing is you get experience every time you do the skill checks, fail or success. But because of where I was at on the map, I just kept getting the thieving ones. So my thieving level was going up, up, up. Don't have a problem with that. It's just that, like, then it's like, well, I'm not a knight, but I guess I should get some melee
You do not have complete control over what skills you want to level. You can choose to focus them. The core gameplay loop is that there's a map of the RuneScape Kingdoms. You go around the map, and at the minor locations, which is places from the game like Port Sarum or the mining pit, the dig site, the farmlands, you gather resources or gold, complete little quests. Then you go to the major cities and spend those resources and those gold to level up things. That's the rough gameplay loop. But you don't necessarily have a lot of control over what random events happen to you while there.
Right, so because you have to take an event card if you do
Correct.
Explore.
If you choose to explore for resources, you have to resolve some kind of thing happening.
I'm totally fine with that. It was just that, like, especially when it came down to, because I grabbed a mini that I just thought looked cool, right? It was like, pick a mini you want, right? Grab that mini. But then when it came down to the boss fight and we're using these cards.
Turns out the boss fight rewarded a certain kind of gameplay that not everybody had spec'd into. Which you could not, which, I mean, okay, is that very RuneScape? Yes, I suppose it is.
Sure.
Is that necessarily a fun idea? Probably not.
Well, it's a little different for me in a video game where it's like, because you get your butt kicked, you go back, and then before you know, now you know going into this fight, I need to be built this way. So I guess all I'm saying is that, like, even just 1 level and maybe 2 skills.
Well, to be fair,
an additional level.
To be fair, something that we missed because of the way the rulebook was written is that we were each supposed to pick 2 skills to start at level 2 in.
Oh, we were.
Yeah.
We were supposed to pick 2 skills to start level 2, level up in the beginning. We were all supposed to get starting equipment in the beginning, which we didn't have,
which I guess
and a recipe.
Brings us to probably the single greatest criticism. Spencer, you want to take this one?
Oh yeah. Learn how to write a rulebook.
I mean, it's all, like, listen, it's all in the rule book. That's me just playing devil's advocate.
It is all there. It's not in the spots you think it would be.
For instance, when you are starting to play a game, you're like, well, do I start with anything? And when you actually go to the part where you think you'd starting up the game,
setting
it
up the full game. The thing that tells you
adding additional adventures to the game
is the page
before
where
you get all the information about what you need to get when you join the game, even though you're starting the game from scratch. A little bit much.
Yeah. it's not laid out the best.
Yeah, and this is a problem with Steamforged. Like, this isn't like unique to this game. It is just sometimes there are game companies, and I can name a couple, that the rule books are always going to be a little hinky. There are some. This game, like, it gives you like half of a player aid here, which was useful to have.
Yes,
but you just needed like one more card or something with a few more things, maybe some stuff to break down icons that you might encounter, or
yeah, but like we didn't have any knowledge that you're supposed to do side quests as something that you can just choose.
You have to like
right.
It's in
because they didn't really spell it out very well.
It's in one minor paragraph. It's like it's not under exploring either.
No,
which is where you think it would be. It's also not under bonus action.
And they didn't say you can do it as a bonus action. They just said when you do this as a bonus action or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it says down here you can accept them as a bonus action, but it doesn't say it. Yeah, like
what does that mean?
It's all there. There were no questions we had that we could not find the answer to.
But yes,
it was not laid out particularly well.
No, it's not very intuitive.
A lot of going back and forth.
The game itself is not bad.
No, right.
Like playing.
No.
But the rule book is counterintuitive. It is anti-intuitive. It really, I feel like at times actively doesn't want you to learn the game the right way.
Yeah. Right. It's one of those, like, you can't like learn as you're flipping through the books, like while playing your learning game.
Which unfortunately is how I learn games personally.
Yeah.
Like I learn by doing.
I learn a lot better putting it out there on the table and playing, a round or two.
There are also some grammatical typo errors and things like that.
There's one bit of repeated text that was clearly just copy pasted to the top of the box. It was not fixed. I mean, that's a minor nitpick.
Those
honestly.
are quibbles, but I will say that the rulebook construction can really color somebody's perspective of a game.
Absolutely.
Yarp.
Absolutely.
Oh, there we go.
Because if someone doesn't like the first game they played, they're a lot less likely to play a second one.
Right.
And this is a legacy campaign game.
Yeah.
And like, there's probably, go look at how to play video, and that will be probably all you need.
Yeah. But this is not a short game.
No.
At all.
No.
Like it took us 3 hours to play.
Yeah, at least.
Granted, that was because we were kind of playing on the curve, behind the curve, because we didn't realize the things that were like we thought it was super grindy because we didn't realize we could be doing side quests.
Well, spoiler alert, it is super grindy.
It is grindy even with that.
Which, to be fair, it is RuneScape and it's a grindy game.
I will say that I feel that if you're doing the side quests, because once we got the side quests done, and if you're doing the part about getting XP when you should, it's paced well.
It speeds you up.
A couple of the side quests I did leveled me up one skill and then some. Like, whereas like just landing on a tile would get you like one EXP in that.
Like in the beginning, there's like starter side quests, and one of them gave me +5 archery. And I was like, well, that's huge.
Right.
Yeah, it's if you're doing the side quests, I feel like you won't end up repeating a lot of the things that we felt we had to repeat because we were trying to grind.
Right.
The core idea is that you've got a boss you need to fight, like Count Draenor,
like build up,
the
fight
dragon.
a boss.
There's things you need to do. So like there's a certain quest line for every quest. So like in our Vampire Slayer, we need to talk to a guy named Morgan. We need to speak to a guy named Dr. Harlow, who said, okay, you need to go make a garlic wreath, for which we needed to have a high enough skill and also the right consumables. You need to make a stake, which we needed to do a mini boss fight and have a high enough skill and pass the test, and then you need to make a hammer. So that's about like 8 total steps, and this is one of the shorter ones.
Right.
Along the way, you're supposed to be leveling yourself up and doing side quests.
Yeah, we also had started by like leveling ourselves up, but we weren't actually looking at what we do here. And like the first required skill, everyone starts off with what you need for the first skill.
Right.
And so we could have actually started off much earlier than we did.
Yes.
We just didn't realize that we could just like go for it.
But sort of on the flip side of that though, is I feel like had we gone in any weaker
to the
boss fight,
final boss?
we would have been toast, right?
Right.
So we could have gotten there sooner, but should we have?
Right.
But we also had that random event card or whatever that made us. We were going to have to fight him very soon anyway.
Right, because
so
of
like we couldn't have taken any more time.
There is a time limit.
Yeah.
I think if we had used our time more efficiently, we would have been just as fine while also getting there sooner.
Yeah, I think.
But I think the key word there is we didn't know.
Right.
And the reason we didn't know is because it wasn't necessarily laid out well. Like, I wish it would have said that.
And just one more comment on the book. I mean, I actually like the graphics on the book. The size is good. But when you're trying to do the Vampire Slayer fight, there's not a card or anything. It tells you to go look in the book, and you have to find
the actions you can take
in the
during
book.
a boss fight are just a single blurb.
Yeah, that needs to be a card. That can be an oversized card that like every other game does.
Or it should. I mean, it
can
be
printed on that board.
Yeah. Well, it can't be printed on the board because the board's right here.
Oh, the board flips.
But,
right.
like it should be an oversized cardboard card that everyone could pass around.
Yeah.
Or honestly, there should just be 4 of them. 5 of them, so that everyone gets one. Like that's what it should be. It shouldn't be. We had to pass the rule book around, and that's never fun. You don't want to pass the rule book around.
Right.
That was the last little gripe on this thing. But
yeah, because like functionally, the game plays like you think it should. It feels like I was. Now I play a lot of I played a lot of role playing games, most of them on consoles, but. I love the grinding aspect, right? You know, I'm just gonna go like Skyrim, things like that. Even Elden Ring, you know what I mean? Like I just go through, build up, get good things. It feels good, you know. But there was definitely some like funky ways that it made you take, but I really did like the event system, like where you're at, you draw a card, and then it's broken down by location. I do wish you got events in the capital city.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, because it's kind of you don't get as you can spend 1 or 2 gold to get the skills listed underneath there, which is awesome.
Right.
Because I was using that to sort of like mass level up some things, you know, kind of quickly. But like to not get that, I always wanted that event card though, too.
Right, yeah.
That's because that's the fun of the game.
It is the fun of the game for sure.
The disadvantage of landing in one of those capital cities is instead you are bringing up that track on the side.
That's the big thing.
Give me the event also.
The campaign
it's
has
so negative.
The campaign has an escalation tracker, and basically as the escalation tracker goes up, things get worse. So, for example, in our case, the vampire kind of starts spreading through
his influence,
Lumbridge and the Draenor area. And all of that means it's harder to take checks in those areas.
Right.
It also adds some really nasty cards to the events.
Yes.
So you don't, and eventually, if it gets too high, like it just triggers the boss fight. Now, I did look in the rulebook, and this is an interesting thing. There's functionally no way to lose this game. If you fail the boss fight, you get kicked out in the state you were before the boss fight with 3 experience points.
Okay.
So it's saying, hey, you're not good enough, come try again.
Yeah.
So
which is like a real
the
video game.
The only thing it affects is that eventually you get to the point where it adds a peril token, and when you finish the entire game, not just this campaign, but when you kill Elvarg, spoiler for Dragon Slayer, I guess.
What?
Yeah.
In the Dragon Slayer, you mean you killed the dragon?
Spoiler. I thought I was going to roll to seduce. It didn't work out.
It didn't work.
Wrong game.
It's not Layer, it's Slayer.
I've got
dang it.
thieving because I steal its heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was assuming that the number up here in the corner is the peril. If you can stop it before it gets to this point, you're getting fewer peril points at the end.
At the very end, there's basically apparently I didn't look how many because I didn't want to spoil myself, even though I'll probably never play it. Finish this.
Oh sure.
There's 4 endings based on how much peril you had, and I think the good one is life's a party, and the bad one is you won.
Yeah.
So the only way to lose this game is to get all the way to the end of the very last campaign, and not do it fast enough.
I guess we call that a Pyrrhic victory.
Which is very RuneScape, because you can't really lose RuneScape, right?
Right. You just grind yourself back up and go fight them again.
Back to Lumbridge you go.
Yep.
Which I guess overall, I think it's one of the things that I think this game does very, very well is theme.
Yeah. So that's the other side of the dirty Steamforged coin, right? Is that like they stick very much to the IP, and their games do feel very thematic.
This was not a worker placement game with a RuneScape skin.
Right.
It very easily could have been.
Sure.
Instead, it was like, okay, how do we actually make a RuneScape game?
Right.
Especially when there's already a RuneScape game that people could just play.
Go play, right? How do I get the tabletop version to make sense for people and bring people in?
On the miniature sides of things, I think, Coty, you would agree, these miniatures are actually really well sculpted for what they are. And that's also kind of a Steamforged thing. These are hard, durable plastic, so I won't feel like these are going to break, but the detail on these is actually really good for a plastic plastic kit.
Right.
They've been getting better and better. The technology's improved.
This is not, as what I was afraid it was going to be, this is not bendy CO-cast.
Oh, yeah.
If you're one of our watchers, you probably know what that means more than some other folks, but this is not cheap CO-cast. This is actually a hard plastic, thermoplastic, done very well, but bendy enough it's not going to break. It's not a Games Workshop kit.
Right.
There was a little bit of mold lines or gates on it, whatever.
I think in a couple places, but
very easily fixable.
Yeah.
less cleanup than a lot of well-known minis manufacturers have on some of their stuff now.
Yeah, Mantic, GW, yeah.
Yeah, throw them all under the bus.
But yeah, I was really impressed with them. They went a little above the game graphics.
Yeah, I was about to say, these look better in real life than they do in the game.
Yeah, like there's more polygons on these than there are in actual RuneScape, which I think
that's changed nowadays. I think it's...
even the newer one.
Oh, okay.
I mean, okay, maybe not, but
am I gonna go home and play RuneScape for like 5 minutes? Probably.
I mean, I'm not gonna play the new one. I might pull my phone out and boot up some OSRS.
Old school. Yeah.
But yeah, the minis look great. I have no complaints.
I will paint these and have fun doing so.
Yeah, especially like the wizard over here. She's got a staff, which is right here. So you already have a template on how
she has
to
a staff
her.
of air. Yeah. Oh, I mean, as a veteran, I recognize all of this equipment. Like,
exactly. Like, that's another really cool part is they actually like.
So that's an ancient staff.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, I bet you the elemental battle staff upgrades to the ancient staff.
It does. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Which we looked through. That's ancient staff because that is a symbol of Zeros on there, and that he's wearing looks like mystic armor. And
I think it's a she.
Oh yeah, she's wearing mystic armor and a spellbook. So
yeah, the mystic armor, and then the quester or whatever, the clue hunter.
Clue hunter, yeah,
has some quest
Burger King
equipment
hat?
that you get. Well, it's also getting the party hat, which is very renowned.
So once upon a time, this is
a story.
Short lore here. Short lore. The blue party hat is mimetic and famous in RuneScape because I forget when that event was, 2008 or something like that. Basically, you had a chance to pull a Christmas cracker and get a blue party hat. It has no stats or anything else.
Okay.
But because they were rare and never again released, they are the single most expensive items in the entire game. Yes. They are status symbols. Yes. People buy them. People steal each other's accounts over these stupid things. They are the target of actual criminal organizations who use RuneScape to launder money. Yeah.
That is the diamond-plated Rolex of RuneScape.
Yeah,
right there.
basically.
Okay.
So for this person to be wearing one is basically saying like, yeah, and like they've got all the equipment they're wearing is like status symbol stuff.
Yeah.
They basically took. There are so continuing with the idea of theme, everything in here is very themed. Everything like there is, Gnome Child is the main card.
Yeah, the side quests are quests that are in the actual game, like the Gertrude's cat that you get the little pet in game. I got a pet cat in the board game, which
the noob who comes up and asks you for gold, please.
Yeah.
Give coins for sword, please. A goateed man says with a blank expression on his default features.
Nice.
Right. Yeah.
Both times he asked me, I was broke.
Conveniently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, man. I don't carry cash on me. I only got a card.
Pretty much.
I didn't get a sword out of it.
So super high points for theme. Really, the only complaints I have about the game is the setup of the rulebook.
Yeah. I think the other thing is like the boss battle, and maybe it's because of the way we were statted out. The boss battle felt a little redundant, a little samey after a while. Like it wasn't as dynamic as I hoped. Now maybe that's just because it's on theme. But sometimes the boss battles in other games where it's like, oh, we're building up, and you're just like, whoa, like all these cool things are happening, but you also kind of get to do some cool things. It didn't feel like that.
Right.
So yeah, it looked.
I had more fun doing all of the other stuff than I did the boss battle.
Was not an exciting ending to this campaign.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is like what they. Well, if I look ahead, the other boss fights have way more actions available.
You're gonna kill the demon in the next. Oh my god.
Yeah, Delrith the demon.
Demon Slayer. I can't believe you're gonna kill him.
He's a low-level demon. Like in the game, it's like it's an early quest where you just get a sword and stab him because it's.
I'm just joking because of the Slayer spoiler joke.
I do like that the game changes when you go to the boss battle, how you guys fight and the order of things. There's an initiative.
2 board games in one kind of thing. Like there's this board game, and then there is the boss battle, which is a dice rolling game kind of thing, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but again, I think it's because when we're doing that, we are constantly getting rewarded for things we're doing.
This is staving off punishment.
And then, exactly. This is like, okay, can we just chuck dice long enough to get through this?
Like they tried to make it so that everybody would have a part to play, but they didn't because there's only 5 actions. So like I mean, I guess they were saying, well, if you're the cook, then you should have cooked rations ahead of time, which, sure, we did, but the person with the cooking skill did not get to use the cooking skill.
Yeah, that's what me and Bob were kind of saying to each other, is like, we didn't really focus on any kind of combat, so we're sitting there rolling 1 dice trying to get a 7 out of 10.
Neither did the knight. Hello.
Neither did the knight, and we're just sitting there like, oh, okay, I guess I'll shoot him with my bow. 1 dice. Oh, nothing. All right, next turn.
The person who spec'd into crafting got to pry the lid open once.
Yeah.
That's not really,
Yeah, it wasn't very feel good. I enjoyed the game. Actually, I was enjoying the game quite a bit until we got to the boss battle, and then it's like, oh, is that it?
The other problem with the boss battle, and I don't know how much this is true of the other boss battles or if it's thematic, but because he's a vampire, it's all about him healing himself, and you trying to out DPS his healing.
Yeah,
I gotta wonder, is that also true for the demon, the fire guy, and the dragon? If it is, I'm gonna call that bad design.
Right,
if it's
lazy
not,
design.
I'm gonna say that maybe we should have started with the demon and not the vampire.
Oh, sure.
I know that demons or Vampire Slayer is like one of the earliest quests. Like again, very thematic, except for Fire Slayer, which ends with
in a situation of going back, I wish I knew what I know now, kind of thing. Like, I'd say that every player, pro tip, do at least range, melee, or magic, so you can feel useful in this. But maybe do you want to be the cook to cook the wreath and the rations, but also do
cook
range
and
or something
a bow.
like that. Yeah, like we kind of rushed to get to the boss, so knowing this, we could have been like, okay, well, now we need to beef up our combat skills, so once we get in there, we're not rolling one dice.
Rushed to get to the boss, but the boss was going to come to us in a minute.
The game kind of rushed us.
We didn't have a lot of choice.
And that's the thing I like, is if you get too many of those little tokens on the timer, he attacks you whether or not you've finished all the things you need to help fight him. So the stake, which prevents him from healing, you won't have, and now you're really going to have to
down his
DPS.
That's the really annoying thing, is the stake doesn't prevent him from healing, it prevents one instance of healing.
But that healing is going to happen every single round, unless you can move it around or stake it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, this doesn't bother me in games. It's what people call Ameritrash games, where they're just dice chuckers. This devolves into a dice chucker very quickly.
Yes, like Warhammer, it's a dice
But it's only like 4 or 5 dice. It's not like 10 or 20.
Right. Where, you're not playing Warhammer 40K, where you got to be...
orcs, I throw 30 dice at once.
Roll to hit, roll to penetrate. Let's say I hit, but now do I penetrate the armor, and then now do I wound? It's too many. This isn't that bad.
Right.
But it is just like, okay, well, I'll roll my 1 die. Okay, I missed. Next, he moves here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to defend. Okay, I did it. It just stopped being near as cool as, again, I thought the quests were really cool. I really liked the questing aspect of it.
Yeah.
Well, the boss battle actually reminded me a lot of the boss battle in the end of Dark Souls, the board game.
Okay.
Have you played that one?
Nope.
I've heard that was also a disappointment.
Steamforged.
Are you saying they've got one boss battle they just keep reskinning?
That was... at first, I was like, okay, and then I thought it's actually not even as good as the one in Dark Souls, so it was kind of disappointing. I was like, couldn't they have come up with a unique way of doing it instead of the whole, you hit here and here and this?
Yeah, and I
the little grid.
The thing is like the little grid is very RuneScape, because RuneScape, the game, is actually on, it's not a visible grid, but it is all about tile based. So when you move someone, it's number of tiles. All attacks in the game are about not standing within 1 space of the boss, or 3 spaces of the boss, or getting within 8 spaces. So I get what they were going for. Again, points for a theme, because you nailed it. But it was a little frustrating to actually do.
Well, it was theme at the expense of fun, right?
Yeah, and in RuneScape, you can move diagonal in tiles.
Oh, sure.
Well, I was just thinking,
you
can't
diagonal
hear,
in tiles.
and that's very irritating. I wonder, did we do that wrong? Because that was...
No,
it's impossible. It was laid out in the rulebook perfectly.
I looked it up. That doesn't mean I didn't miss it. Yeah, but I was thinking, if you had something like that, you could have a radial grid. They exist.
No, they don't exist.
No. Yeah, I think if they would have just added more squares and added movement to be a little more
because the fact that there's only 9 squares and everyone can only move 1 square is very slow and plodding. And if you're a melee, I spent the entire time trying to get to him.
Well, that's why you have some of the abilities you can move around either him or the other characters, and that way you can put the melee guy on him so he doesn't move, or pull him away so that when he goes towards you, he's not actually hitting anyone.
Yes.
The problem is, when you have at least as many players as we did, all 5, there's not really many instances where you can get him away far enough where he's not going to be hitting a bunch of people.
Right.
because basically there's more cards that dictate behavior the more players there are.
Yep.
And I get what you're like. I can see what this is supposed to be. What this is supposed to be is that you have an equal mix of people who can move players or the boss, and a mix of people who can do damage to the boss.
Right, but to have that come out in a satisfying way is what they really should do is let the players decide what order they want to go in, and then you randomly, I don't know what the vampire is going to do, but so we're going to just hope that this order makes sense.
They did a D&D initiative system that resets every round, meaning it's very difficult to plan ahead.
Because honestly, the only thing I was good at was manipulating this lineup. And if I went last, it was useless. Doing nothing.
Right.
I am rolling a one die to weekly try to hit the two.
And you can't. Whereas in like a D&D game, where if the initiative remains the same every round, so you can start to plan your attacks. It also loops around. This doesn't loop, which means it's resets and it always changes.
And I don't mind if he changes.
Right.
I think it's almost too much luck. Like there's not enough luck mitigation.
Yes, it's too I get
random.
I get the idea is supposed to be you're reactive, but this destroys any ability to plan.
Right.
Or any good ability to plan. Like when we finally got it to happen, we two-turned him. Because it was we shoved him into a space and just wailed on him.
But by the time that it happened, it was almost like, oh, thank God. This is just done. And not, hooray, we won.
I think that's what they're going for, is it's supposed to be you get him into the right position and then burn phase. But that's not necessarily satisfying as dealing damage constantly.
Yeah.
And that was still even just completely relying on the order that we got drawn.
We
if he wouldn't have been in the middle, he wouldn't have been able to move that 2 cards over and then have 3 attacks in a row. That was still very luck based on that. There was.
But even the 1 card regenerate makes him immediately teleport back into the middle no matter what.
Right.
That actually was kind of annoying because it prevented us from moving him.
If we could plan all of our stuff and then just kind of go, okay, I think we're set up for whatever rando crap he's going to do.
Yeah.
I think it would still feel a lot better than. Now, here's the thing: is I know Dan is a big Dark Souls fan. He has house ruled his Dark Souls to make it so that he enjoys it a lot more.
Oh yeah, there's definitely ways to do it.
So I could also see going, okay, guys, we played it like this. We didn't love it,
but we can tweak it a little bit.
Here we go. We're gonna just house rule it because I think that this would make combat more interesting. If for some reason that made combat way too easy, then you go back. I guess you go back to the other way, or you just figure something else out.
But right now, it's not challenging, it's tedious.
Yeah.
Which is the worst thing you can be.
And you don't,
This was not a hard fight. At no point did we feel like, oh, wow, okay, I need to rethink my strategy. It was just like, okay, well, we can't do anything this turn.
Yeah, we had one round where, everybody got hit.
And then
Bob ate a ration, healed 3, and it's like, okay. And he couldn't really do much that round anyway, so it's like, hooray, I helped.
It was a sponge fight, and that's not fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting that the party shares health in the last battle,
which I like, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice way of
because
doing
I was not a liability going into it too.
So we don't all die immediately,
which I really didn't want to be.
It also means that no player can die.
Right.
If you fail, you fail.
No player elimination. I did like
Great
that.
job.
Yeah.
And when you die, death becomes a character on the board. During the first half, death becomes a character on the board, and you can go and you can bargain with him to get things out. I'm sure that's in the actual game.
Yes.
But I've not seen that interesting little thing before.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
In the game, you drop your stuff, and you have to find death, and you can pay him to get your stuff back, basically. Yeah. In this one, actually, it's even better because...
You have to steal it from him.
You have to pass a skill check to try and get your stuff back.
And every time you die, you mark up a tally on your card.
The skill check gets
harder.
And
that increases the skill check.
Yeah, he's like, I know you.
I like that,
hey, wait a minute.
system. I thought it was very nice.
You're supposed to be dead. No, again, there's lots of really interesting things about this game, but there's some very frustrating things about this game as well.
Yeah, there's only 1 or 2 frustrating things, but unfortunately...
They're so frustrating.
Have you ever heard the term start strong, end strong?
Right.
This starts poorly because the book is one of the more frustrating things, and then it ends poorly because the other frustrating thing is the boss fight that you end with.
Which the book didn't help with.
Which the book did not help with. So this starts weak, ends weak.
Yeah.
The meat, this is a sandwich with filet mignon in the middle and then dollar store white bread.
And it's really dried out.
Saltine crackers as the sandwich. And it's like, but for some reason you can't take the saltines off and just eat the fillet.
Yeah.
So this metaphor, some metaphors aren't worth pursuing.
However, if you have played this game and you have figured out the rules,
when this is no longer a liability,
that's no longer a liability, then I think this game becomes a lot better. But of course, we have to look at.
But the boss fight remains.
The boss fight, the other boss fights, and yet you still can't get rid of that because I guarantee you're not going to have memorized every single action in all the boss.
Well, I don't know.
fights.
I knew all the actions from our boss fight by the end of it because it's gone on for so long.
At the end, but you know.
No, I agree. That's an issue. That is an issue. So why don't we? I guess we've kind of beat this horse to death. This vampire to death.
We've slayed it.
That took less time than the vampire fight did, by the way.
Oh my god, it sure did. Why don't we go around? So for the board game rundown, we go around and we give a rating like you would find on BGG, which is from 1 to 10. And then what we will do is average them all together and then have one representative rating. So if you guys are comfortable rating it between 1 and 10, 0.5s are allowed. Not 10.5 though, that's just insane.
I don't think it's a problem with this game.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to come into play, but we'll all give it a rating, and then you guys give it your rundown, your mini rundown spin as well. And then if Spencer and I have anything to contribute to that, we'll throw in our own particular idioms. Okay, so Coty, what would you rate?
Oh, you're gonna start with me.
Make it one of us go first.
He looked like he had a number when I was describing it.
I'd probably say a 7.
A 7. Okay.
I would play it again. Absolutely.
Yeah, 7 is right in there. Like, you don't necessarily need to own it, but like, you'd play it if somebody's like, "Hey, we're playing RuneScape." How about you, Spencer?
I am also giving it a 7. I think it has the potential to go up, but it might not have as much potential to go up as it could have. So I'm giving it a 7.
Joshua.
It's hard to argue with that. I like 7, maybe a 7.5. I'm going to give it a 7.5 because it is a game. It is a legacy game that makes me go, all right, so I want to look at the rest of this.
Right.
Like, it has grabbed my attention. Boss fight, despite itself, I legitimately do want to play the next 3 campaigns.
And see.
I legitimately want to open up those other campaign boxes and see what those other bosses is. I think that it is a 7 if you have no idea what RuneScape is.
Oh, sure.
I think this is a 7.5 or an 8 even if you are a fan of RuneScape.
Well, yeah,
if you're into
fan,
it.
If all of these references and stuff means a lot to you, if looking at Bob the Cat makes you giggle because you know what Bob the Cat is, you know, and fighting the King Black Dragon, then if this game is an 8. So because of that, I'm going to average to a 7.5.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm with everybody else at the table. It's a 7. There's some flaws, but like really that questing part was so much fun. And I do really like sort of the leveling up system. The legacy aspect of this is very appealing. And again, right, very much on theme. But this is almost a game where you just need to be okay with, like, let somebody teach you the game that knows how to play it. Because the other thing is you will probably cut an hour off of your next
Oh, yeah.
game.
Like, how much of... First off, an hour of it was us faffing about because we didn't know what we needed to do.
Right.
And another hour of it was extra time because we were doing things wrong.
Yeah. But if the rule book were a little better, but again, like we've done the work for you, so you've gone through now, you've done the work, so you're gonna go, oh yeah, you might need to refresh like 2 things next time you get to the table, but it's not like it's so rules heavy that it's gonna
for
mess
a
you up.
RuneScape game, it is less rules heavy than I was afraid it was going to be.
So if you average all those up, we get a 7.1.
There we go. That's
All
pretty
right.
good.
Happy to be the one who makes it slightly annoying, but
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, you did have a point. I am curious to see what do the other boxes bring to it because I'm a little worried that they only changed the boss fight and they're not going to change the map.
nope.
You get different event
Yeah,
decks.
that's
you get
kind of my thinking.
You get so I did look ahead. So for the other campaigns in the base game, you are supposed to add more and more events to the event. You also add more random events, you add more equipments, you add more everything, basically. The other expansions actually add, I can actually show you. So, for example, the other expansions actually add, so like this is the one for the Cal fight, queen or king fight. It actually has a chunk of Al-Kharid, that it doesn't take place in here. It's you actually stick that on the map next to the dig site. Same thing for one for Karamja, and so each of these other expansions actually does add new map areas.
That's very cool.
In addition to
that's interesting.
And again, right, like why this wasn't a 6.5 for me is that because if I played one more scenario through and the boss fight felt very samey, I would just house rule like one or two things and then go see if that makes it any better. Because I do think sometimes you go, this rule might be, if it's going to make the game more enjoyable for you, just do it. There's some people that are like, well, you got to play it as it lies. It's like, nah, man, like playing games to have fun.
A brief look ahead at the other boss fights says that they do not have the same kind of healing mechanic.
Good.
Okay.
And they have other mechanics where, like, the Delarith, so the Demon Slayer one is about, like, handling cultists.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
The dragon one is, like, about, she sets the land on fire, and you need to deal with that.
That's a bummer.
That makes sense.
So it looks like they all do take place on this 3x3 grid, though, and that feels a little...
Yeah, the 3x3 grid I still think needs a definite change, but the dragon one would kind of just immediately change my mind already because my feels bad with the boss fight was I went into gathering, and gathering in a boss fight is
different. Yeah,
it moves your characters in something where the land is on fire. Movement might actually come into more play.
Yeah, that doesn't help much with this one.
Like in the vampire one, it was terrible. Like I can move it, and then the vampire's just gonna move
right back
anyway, and.
Hello.
Yeah. The fact that it was RuneScape made me vote as high as I did, but yeah, the actual questing part was the rest of it for me. But the boss fight was just kind of
Yeah.
All right. So do you guys have a miniatures rundown? Yay, nay?
The only thing
that
we are specifically going to talk about is as far as like the miniatures, which we did already talk about.
Yep.
For a board game, these are 10s.
Absolutely.
Like, as far as board game miniatures, these are as good as any other board game miniature I've ever seen that is not made by Games Workshop that doesn't require you to assemble them.
Yeah.
Which is what Steamforged Games is known for.
I would give these more like an 8 just because I have seen more detailed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of Awakened Realms games are ridiculously amazing.
Awakened Realms, they do go even into...
They go super detailed.
And this is where we're getting into the minis side of thing, I guess.
That's fine.
Awakened Realms games border on the problem I have with a lot of 3D printed miniatures is that just because you can put more detail on something does not mean you have to.
Oh, sure.
I imagine
it
it
does
makes it
not
harder to
mean
paint.
I want to paint that.
Right.
Yes, congratulations, you sculpted every single chainmail link. I'm going to dry brush that silver. Stop bothering me.
I have seen absolutely just amazing paintings of Awakened Realms miniatures.
Yes.
And then you do what I do, and you just get the nice sun drop, and it still looks good.
Yes, yeah. I will say that, these are not... When I say that I think these are the best, I don't mean they have literally the most detail. I think these are the perfect minis for the job.
Yeah,
they're very thematic. Like they fit RuneScape. They look great.
Yes.
They check all of the boxes again without being stupidly over detailed and unnecessarily.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start with the Steamforged game, because that's what they do. It was the same thing with the Dark Souls board game. Like those minis were absolutely, chef's kiss. So yeah, that's the only thing from a minis perspective. That's really the only thing we have to talk about. Honestly, this is like, there are better minis games we could have chosen to do the first collaboration on.
Oh, sure.
But this is just the one that I wanted to do and wasn't going to quite fit on our channel alone.
No, and that's what's fun though is that, like, on our side, there's a ton of board games with minis, but not every board game has minis.
Right.
So it is like where do we decide, hey, let's try to do this. This one made a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was also like there was a lot of mutual interest because you'd brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. I am only familiar with RuneScape probably from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then didn't do much else with it because I was always more of a console gamer than a PC gamer. And actually, at that time, I was playing the Warhammer MMO.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
All the time. Loved that frickin' game. So it was like, oh, RuneScape. Oh, but I could be playing Warhammer right now.
Yeah.
And was playing the Warhammer one. But anyways, no, this was really like a great opportunity to sort of collaborate and like really look at all the aspects. We will be doing more of this with more games. This one was just going to be the first.
Yeah. So stay tuned for more.
Anything else to add before we sign off then?
Comment your woodcutting level in the comments.
Yeah, or give us your RuneScape player ID.
WC question mark?
Yeah, there you go.
Buying GF 100 GP.
There we go.
There you go.
Get all the jokes in now.
Get all the jokes in now.
All right, guys. Well, then I will go ahead and sign us off. So, for the board game rundown, I've been Tim.
I've been Cody.
Spencer.
And Joshua.
And this was RuneScape Kingdoms. RuneScape Kingdoms. I'll get that right. Shadows of Elvarg. Ding.
All right.
Shadow.
Oops.
Whatever.
He's only got one shadow. Yeah, I couldn't even say RuneScape Kingdoms in the right.
like, you know.
Kingstone.
Baby steps. All right, now we gotta put all this shit back together.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Oh yeah, time to go.
Yep, exactly.
Bye, have fun. Well, this is